Bring me the next shiny new thing. Bring me the next.
The pickleball
shiny
chicks
new
are
thing.
obsessed with America's fastest growing sport, pickleball. Get ready for on and off the court hot topics, lots of laughs, cocktails and champagne with your hosts, Annie and Rebecca.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Annie.
And we're the Pickleball Chicks.
Oh my gosh.
We've got a good one today.
9th episode. And by the way, today, 4,000 followers on
Woo!
Instagram. Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
following us and enjoying our content and being a part of the pickleball journey.
Yes. So, a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
Word of the day.
Tip.
And the drink of the day today.
Well, we had a birthday. It was Rebecca's birthday. February is a very important month for Rebecca, even though it is March 1st today. We haven't had an opportunity to celebrate with all of you. So here we have the Iron Butterfly with, of course, a little pink sparkle and a nice candle.
You see that? The colors? Ooh.
Happy birthday, Rebecca.
Well, thank you so much.
Woo! Okay, this is great. We're going to take this little
Yeah,
guy
we should
out.
take this out because I would guess that we would burn our lips off.
I think we might.
All right.
So, cheers.
Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. And
Happy
you know what?
birthday.
I've had a lot of people on Instagram from our group saying happy birthday too. So I just want to say thank you so much. That means so much.
Very nice. And you're a special gal. So happy birthday.
Thank you.
Very nice.
That is a good one.
Oh my gosh. All right, should we get started?
We should.
Let's get started.
And remember, when you hear the word of the day,
tip.
take a sip.
Mm-hmm.
Woo-woo.
All right, let's go. Here we go. Okay, Rebecca, let's introduce our very special guest. So special that he came across the pond. Making waves in the pickleball space is Mr. Mark Price. Welcome,
Yes.
Mark.
Oh, we are so excited to get to meet
Thank
you
you.
finally.
Thank you.
So, we have really enjoyed all your content, and everyone has asked us so much about it because anytime we need a tip, where do we go?
MarkPricePickleball.com.
Thank you. That's very kind.
So we'd love to hear just a quick little snippet of how you became obsessed with pickleball and how that all came to be and how you came to the United States.
Yes.
Yeah, so I came to the States because of love. I met a girl from Rome, Georgia, and she brought me over from England.
Was
4
it
years
in
ago.
college or how did you meet her?
So we met on Instagram over food. We were both sharing about food posts. So it was a really
cute.
crazy meeting. And started to write to each other and then FaceTime, and then it grew from there. So it's like a Hallmark story.
Oh, cute.
I love it.
That's cool.
We're foodies.
Yes, we are
Yeah.
foodies.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Okay, so let's get into some tips since you're the tip master.
Thank you.
But that is true. Let's
is
do
true.
it.
So if you could, what's your number one tip that you've ever given out? The one that the most people have commented on your Instagram.
Oh, that's a difficult one. I'd have to ask my media manager to find out the stats, because he's the stat master. But,
Okay, what's the one that you feel like has really been one that people kind of come up to you and just really enjoyed?
yeah, I think I like to use letters for coaching because it's easy to remember. So I often use, it's just how my brain works. I'll be thinking of an area and I'll think of something that has the same letter to help people remember. So I wrote a tip on the 3 O's, which is about resetting the ball. So when to reset. So if you're off balance, off court, or outstretched, you should be resetting the ball. And often when we're pushed off court or we're off balance, we want to get them back. So we want to attack the player who made us feel uncomfortable, and it's the wrong move. By attacking when you're off court, your whole court's open. So often beginners will tend to get pushed off court or off balance, and they're attacking back, and they're in a vulnerable position because they're not balanced or they're off court. So that was what I call the 3 O's of resetting. So I think those resonate with people where they have a good way to remember a tip. If you give, letters or a simple way to remember.
Right.
So that's one of my favorites.
I like that one.
We like it too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have a girlfriend who has gotten into the pickleball recently, and she has really run up against where everybody and anybody who she plays against wants to tell her the way it is and where she should stand and how this goes and how that goes.
Yeah.
And she did ask us, how should I handle that? It's getting discouraging because it's really not much fun.
Yeah.
So what's your thought on that? What would be your tip
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, I think that it's a common problem amongst pickleball circles across the nation, where everyone feels it's their right to coach and to instruct and to help. Let me help you. Hey, let me give you some advice. And I think it's just, I'm not sure why, but I think that players who've been there a few years, obviously there's a lot of rules in the game, but it's almost overstepping boundaries on the court, I think personally, where I'm not coaching on court. I'm a coach. I coach full time, but when I'm playing with friends or in rec play, I'm not doing any coaching ever, and unless I'm invited to coach. So I think coaching is a privilege and needs to have permission. There you go, 2 P's.
Oh, the 2 P's.
Yeah. So you need to be given permission, and it is a privilege. So I wait to be invited to coach or say, what do you think about this, or what should I do here? So if I'm with players and they're not asking me, I'll obviously see people making errors or getting frustrated, but to step in and say, let me give you some advice, it's often not well received, And I think that for your friend, she's getting anxious, she's feeling overwhelmed by advice from so many different players. So I think it's really not helping to have lots of advice from so many different voices and people saying different things, and people almost set themselves in the position as coach because they've played longer, and it's not necessarily good advice. So, and it can be conflicting advice as well. So she's hearing different things from different players, and it becomes confusing.
Right.
So I'd say for your friend that the most important thing is to enjoy the game and to really politely reject the advice.
And so we have had a couple things that we have said in the past when we were newer. Annie, you had one that you liked to say. What was your response?
Yes, my response was, thank you. I'm currently working on my pickleball game. I think we all have things we're working on.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And then it was like this, bam.
Yeah. I think that, as a coach, you're in a position where you're giving correction, and it's almost, it's criticism in a constructive way. But if it's not delivered in the right way or in the right environment or being invited to, then it's just seen as criticism. You're just criticizing or you're jumping on mistakes. So, that's why I avoid coaching if I'm during rec play or just with friends or just on the courts. I'll just resist the temptation to coach. And I think that it's important for beginners especially to just enjoy playing, and it's okay to make mistakes and recognize that you are going to make mistakes, and having people jumping on your mistakes and correcting you or telling you what you should be doing can make you more nervous and make more mistakes, So I would encourage them just to say that, I'm learning. I just really want to have fun. I appreciate the advice, but I'd rather just listen to my friend who I'm here with and just sort of say that I've got one friend who's helping me learn the game, and I don't really want 10 different people giving advice.
Exactly. And I've even seen people come up to you while you're playing in rec, and they'll say something to someone who's even maybe a little more experienced, and they didn't see what was going on.
Right.
And they have a lot of good advice for you too that starts to, cause conflict in your mind.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
didn't see what just had happened and why you were doing what you were doing. And it
Yeah.
can be confusing. So I think that's really good advice. And
Mm.
I think that's something that all of our listeners can really benefit from and feel confident in saying, hey,
Yep.
you know.
And that really
Yeah.
brings us into our next tip on mental, the mental part of the game, where once people are on your butt about things, it's like game over. So what's your tip on the mental part of the game?
Yeah, I think it's an overlooked part of the game. Obviously, more coaches are starting to talk about it as people advance. It's really the most important part of the game. You know, the mental game is what separates the good from the great, Michael Jordan said. And it's you see the top players in any field, in any sport, are ice cold. They're cool. They're calm. They're collected. They have their composure on court, and they seem unflustered by when they're losing. And I think that, you know, allowing your emotions to take over in a game is you know, getting angry, getting upset, getting emotional in the game is can lead to your game falling apart. And I think there's a difference between psyching yourself up and becoming angry. So there's two different things there. One is a deliberate action of getting yourself excited. Come on, you know, let's go, and all these sort of things, and you're sort of amping yourself up. And the other is criticizing yourself. That was stupid, or oh, you idiot, and this sort of way you're criticizing yourself or demeaning yourself in anger, or you're just upset or kicking the floor or whatever. So I think that, you know, I think that one is the negative and the other one is bringing you into a higher level of play. But I see the top players in most sports have just incredible composure. So they don't seem flustered. If they're winning or losing, they just seem very calm under pressure. And you look at the top players in the world, they just seem that they have their thoughts gathered. They're very focused. They're not showing emotion, and they're not showing weakness or strength. They're just really in the moment in the game.
And you mentioned self-talk.
Yeah, so I think that self-talk is a real key to the highest level in the mental game. I think the sort of starting level is being positive, which is important. But if you only say, you know, you've got this, keep going, you can do it, you're the best, you know, it's very surface level. And if you're losing 8-0 and you're saying you've got it, you know, it's sort of your brain's gonna be thinking, well, if I'm a best, why am I losing?
right.
So I think it has to go beyond just positive talk, and it has to be specific to the situation. And it obviously needs to be positive, but it needs to be game specific, and your problem solving in the game, and your self talk is directed at solving how do I win this game. So you know, instead of just saying you're great, you've got this, you're saying, you know, focus more on the ball, bring the player in close, you know, cut down the errors, or, you know, whatever the self talk is, and recognizing that, you know, I mentioned earlier, your own self-talk is more powerful than anyone else's talk to you. So we talk at 140 words per minute, and our self-talk is at 800 words a minute. So our brain and self-talk is going so fast that you could be saying to me, you've got this, Mark, you can do it. But my own self-talk is going at such a rapid rate. I need to get hold of those thoughts and really direct them into specifically targeting what I need to be doing on the court, and directing my thoughts towards how do I solve this problem, and how do I win this game, you know.
And then that keeps your mind busy trying to do that versus saying dummy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I love this. So we have a beginner tip, we have a mental fortitude tip. How about a tip for those 3-5, 4.0 players that are really trying to move into that next level?
Yeah. I think, you know, 3.5, 4.0, I think working a lot in the mid-court area is really key. becoming comfortable mid-court, learning to defend from being attacked at your feet. So learn to reset off the bounce, reset on the volley. So really spending a lot of time working in that transition area. And then I think for advanced players, if you want to move on to advanced players, I think that it's really about fine-tuning an engine. So I look at beginner players as you've got this old, not necessarily old, but you've got an engine.
Pickleball for all ages.
And stages.
Edit that bit. So you've got a big engine, a big rusty engine, and it needs a lot of work. The pistons might be stuck. It needs oiling. It needs freeing to move well, and I don't know what you do with an engine, but to make it shiny again and work. And so there's a lot of work to do when you're a complete beginner, but as you advance in the game, it's more of fine-tuning. So you're working on small areas that will take your game to the next level. So at the highest level, in any sport, you're looking at the difference of a reaction time increasing, your explosive movement increasing, your speed, your coordination. So it's fine. You're working in seconds and milliseconds. So I think, one thing I've been thinking about recently is about, for advanced players, is roll the ball more than hook the ball. And what I mean by that is we're trying to, be creative, and, when you play good players or very, advanced players, they can already reset, they can already hit good roll volleys, they serve very well, they can reset the ball, their dink game strong. So you're trying to find a small area where you can expose, and often it's through disguise and through being creative and having variety in your game, so you're not predictable. Mm-hmm. So, it can be just reducing the pace on an attack could be the difference. So you're attacking at one speed and you reduce the pace, and your change of pace was the weapon, because it's invisible. You can't see change of pace. So my tip about hooking, rolling rather than hooking, is that we can tend to try and want to push towards the lines more and try and hit a last minute change of direction. And when you hook the ball, I'm trying to find my hand. If we hook the ball like this, it can tend to bring the ball off the court. And when you roll the ball like this, it has more control and accuracy. And the tendency is to want to hook the ball to change direction last minute to bring surprise, but it's a risky move. It can pay off if you're really honed in, but it could often pull the ball a little too wide. So I would roll the ball more than hook the ball for those advanced players.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip.
A wonderful tip. Yes, I like that one.
And now Annie and I have been kind of working on something. We're going to the PPA tour, and we have been working on, which we got from you, the X strategy.
Okay, good.
And so give us a little bit of info and a tip.
X Factor.
Love it. You know why we love that? Pickleball chicks with
the nuts.
Fantastic.
So this works for us.
That's great. This is your tip. This is mine. Good. Good. Okay. Yeah, so the X strategy it's a simple strategy. I think it's a foundational play or pattern, so you're recognizing who takes which ball. And I think that it's misunderstood as a rule, and yet it's more of a foundation of play. So it's not a rule in the sense that you always do this. And I think that's where it's misunderstood, is that people are thinking this is how you always play. And yet it's more of a foundation pattern of knowing who takes which ball. So the X strategy is simply the cross-court player covers the middle. So if the ball is in front of you, if you're on the left and the ball's in front of you, your responsibility is the line and your partner's responsibility is the middle. Because to cover my partner's line is very hard. I've got to run around my partner to cover their line. So I can't cover their line. They have to cover their line, and I cover the middle if the ball's on the diagonal across from me. So the challenge is that there are exceptions to the rule. So if you're higher up the court or in a position to poach, you can always break the rule and poach for your partner. but that's the exception. And what happens is people teach all the exceptions, and it becomes very confusing because there looks like no consistent pattern of who. I'm here, you cover the ball. If I'm at front, I've got it. And they're saying forehand takes the middle, and all these different things that are said that make things confusing. And I think that we need to stay with a foundation of play, that the X strategy is the foundation, and then outside of that we can break the rules depending on our position on the court. So if my partner's ahead of me and a stronger position, they can always poach me and protect me if they're further up the court. Sure. But if we both stand in the middle and both look at each other and it goes through the middle because we both thought we had it, that's where the problem is, because we're not sure who takes the ball. And when we overcrowd each other, it becomes confusing because we're both moving towards the middle and we both think we're going to take the ball. So the X strategy is a simple strategy for knowing who takes which ball. So I think it reduces the overcrowding. Then if you know who's supposed to cover the middle and who covers the line, then it's just a simple way of knowing I don't need to crowd you because I'm going to trust you to cover the middle. You're going to come over and cover for me, and I can cover the line.
Trust.
Yeah. So
we trust our partner.
Yes. That is really, that's another very good point, is partner trust.
Yeah.
Do you trust the person you're playing with? And so that is, I do trust you.
I trust you.
So that's really great.
That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So many tips that we would love to dive in with you and share all this beautiful information with our listeners. But we will remind everyone that they can find you at markpricepickleball.com, as well as your Instagram. And your Instagram handle is?
Mark Price Pickleball.
Woo! Nice and easy.
Yes.
Nice and easy.
Yes.
And we have a lot of other things that we'd like to talk to you about. So, shall we?
Because I have been wondering about this. Now, Annie and I have gone back and forth about it. So if I am hitting a third ball drive, now I know that I have watched you say, hit the ball straight to the person in front of you or slightly to the middle. And Annie and I have gone back and forth. And Annie likes to do a third ball lob.
Sometimes I do like to do that.
It's done you great. It's done our team great.
I've turned into a lobber in Marco Island this winter,
Fantastic.
and I've never lobbed as much.
But you're always rocking and rolling, so bravo.
It's been a lot of fun. So you had some ideas on that third shot.
Yeah, so tell us what you think about that and why, what the reason behind it, because I think our listeners would want to know that and want that info.
Yeah, so I think a third shot lob can be very effective. I've seen the pros are using it occasionally. It's a difficult shot. I think what I would say is go with what's working. So in a game, if it's very windy and you keep trying to lob and the ball's blowing out, or you're making lots of errors, then you need to readjust your game and really look at what's working on the day. So if you're playing a game and your lob's working and you're able to get in, you're pushing players back, and it's a good strategy if it's working for you. However, if you've got players who are very athletic and they're smashing every lob and you're losing points because of the lobbing, then it's recognizing to not keep going back to the same thing that is not working. It may sound obvious, but it's amazing how many players they want to get it in and they want to win a point with a lob, and they keep trying it because they want to win at least 1 point, and they lose 5 points and they get one. I go, oh yeah, I got it. I got the 1 point. They lost 5. They lost 5 in a row.
Yes, that's true. So what is the reasoning then with the drive to go right to the person in front of you instead of cross court?
Yeah. So it's simply the geometry of the court. So if you go to the player in front of you, then the distance is less. So the player at the net has less time to react to the ball, the pace of the ball, and the distance is less. So you're driving to the player in front of you, they have less time to react to the ball. If you go cross court, they've got at least 2 more feet and they've got more time to really attack that ball. So I've seen that by going cross court, they can create bigger angles on the attack. They can hit more angles, and also they can punish you more because they're watching the ball for longer. So if you go to the player in front of you, they've got less time to react, and it puts you in a strong position. So I would always drive at the player in front, or down the middle. But the front player is good because then they're defending themselves, and the ball lands around mid-court for you. So
Ooh.
I think driving at the player in front is a good option.
Nice and simple. I mean, it makes it
I
very
know.
simple. That reminds me of another tip that I've heard along the way.
And I don't know if everybody remembers, but that's the word of the day.
Let's take a sip.
Cheers.
Forgot about that. We forgot about that. Cheers to you, Mark.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, yeah, when you do
I've got Perrier, and you've got.
I love
Yes.
it.
Ooh.
Well, I'm drinking a beer in a
Pickleball.
champagne.
Yes,
Oh, wait.
champagne.
And these,
I mean, that's pretty cute.
I don't know if you can see it, but they're available on our website.
Okay.
Very good.
So real quick, I had heard along the way somewhere that when you're dinking, that you should go cross court. Is that true, or what's your opinion on that?
Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah. So obviously, cross-court dink you've got more space, so you've got more area to cover. More area to put the ball in. It's easier to keep it in play, and easier to not get it too high for your opponents if you're going cross-court. Because the distance is further, and you're going over a lower part of the net. So if you're going straight on, you've got less distance, and it's easier to get too high. So a straight dink is a little harder to keep it low. So I think saying to always go cross court is the wrong advice. I would do your majority of your dinks cross court because of those two reasons. It's a safer cross court dink, but I would sort of mix up where you put the ball. So instead of putting the same place every time when you go cross court, I'd go maybe towards their outside foot a few times, and then maybe go for an inside foot.
Oh,
So
that
you're bringing.
now that right there was an excellent tip.
That's another great
Yeah.
tip. This is
Thank you.
so helpful.
You're very kind.
Oh.
But I mean those are the little things that the person who's just getting into it, but yet they've moved up a level, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's one thing I can manage. I can add that to my game.
Yeah. The great thing about pickleball is that you can practice with two of you, work on drills and mini games. And so, you could practice your cross court dinking and work into a drill where you're playing for points, and work on placing the ball in different spots on the court, So I think that what's great about drilling is that the more you do it, you become more competent in it. You get a feel for the ball, and then when you play a game, because you've been practicing and having repetitions, then it can start to feel like a drill, and you already know what you should be doing, or the movement, or the paddle angles, and so I think drilling is really, really key to improving in your game.
It is key.
Yes.
But we hate it.
Well, it's always fun to play games, that's for sure. Hey, and speaking of drills, tips, and instruction, you have a lot of camps. You provide camps. I'd like to get into your camps and then talk about your foundation.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've been doing camps for the last 3 years. We started doing local camps in Georgia and did 6 camps the first year. Last year we did 20 camps across the states.
Wow.
And then this year we're going global. So we're going to be going to Jamaica, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Scotland, Germany, England. So we're all over the world.
Wow.
The pickleball chicks are coming with you, Mark. I think we are.
I mean, we're available.
Fantastic.
Oh, well, congratulations to you
Thank you.
all of your successes with your camps and
Thank you.
of the differences that you have made in people's love, enjoyment, and skill in the most
Thank you.
fabulous game in the world, pickleball. But we also would really like to talk to you about your foundation. Would you mind sharing some
Yeah.
information?
And some upcoming events.
Yeah, so we partnered with Saving Susan Ministries and Score International. And then we've got a foundation called Mark Price Pickleball Foundation. It's actually the Mark Price Pickleball Kids Foundation. And we are looking to take the joy of pickleball to children who are in need, to orphanages or children who have, very little. And just bringing the joy of pickleball, really, bring community and a new addiction. So, it's a really special thing to, take equipment and train staff in different areas and leave them the gift of pickleball. It's something we take for granted and enjoy playing, but some children don't have the resources or the means to be able to play or know about the game. Mm-hmm. So to go into an area and bring nets and balls and paddles and teach the local staff the game and then leave them the equipment to be able to continue is a really beautiful thing.
I do love that. I love it.
That's really wonderful.
And we will volunteer, so you just let us know.
Yes.
Thank you.
And our thing is to have fun, but yet to help people, and we want to just be inclusive. So
beautiful.
That is so wonderful. And regarding pickleball, what has connected you so passionately to this fabulous sport? Why do you love it so much, Mark?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just it's a game like nothing else I've ever played. I think the community aspect and people come together, they have fun. There's obviously very competitive at every level, but it's just a beautiful game where everyone celebrates great points and great shots. So I love that about the game where we can have a great rally and it doesn't matter who wins the point, we're all celebrating. Wow, that was amazing. What a great rally, what a great point. So it has a real community and sort of a warmth about it where other sports, you're further away from your opponents and there's less engagement. But in pickleball,
and they're out for blood. Everybody's out for blood.
Yeah. But in pickleball, you're with your opponents. There's banter, there's camaraderie, there's connection, and I just think it's just a really beautiful sport that can be played from. You can have grandparents playing with grandchildren, every age range, and every ability playing together on the same court and having fun. So it's a really unique sport that brings families together, and the communities are just, you can travel all over the States and find communities who welcome and embrace you because you're a pickleball player. So it's very unique.
Yeah.
That is neat. We really love that about pickleball as well. Now, Rebecca always has a question that she loves to ask each of our guests.
Yeah.
So you ready for this, Mark?
Okay, I think.
It's a good one. Okay, so if you could pick someone to be your doubles partner, it can be anyone, guy, girl, and it doesn't even have to be a pickleball player. It can be anybody you want. Who would it be and why?
Okay, so I would pick Vivian David, who's a pro female partner.
Ooh.
So obviously she plays at the highest level, but I think that, seeing her on court, seeing how warm she is, she's always smiling, laughing, and I think for a doubles partner to have someone who isn't critical, who is a good player, but encouraging, warm, friendly, you don't feel intimidated to play with someone who is encouraging on court. So I think that, having someone who, the best doubles partners are those who lift you up when you're struggling. And I think that she would be a great partner. So
that's a great answer.
That is a super answer. And
I probably need to mention my wife at this point as well.
Yes.
I do think my wife is wonderful.
Wait a second.
But she is not a pickleball player. So.
But is she going? Do you think you guys will ever get on the court together?
Yeah. So my wife's never played any racket sports before. So if she's come and played with me before, but she feels embarrassed that she's not very good, and she's saying, "Well, you're a pro. I should be better." I say, "Well, this is not transferable." I know we're married, but so she puts pressure on herself and feels that that she should do better because she's married to me. So she puts undue pressure.
Does she have a sport that she plays?
No, she loves hiking. She's a real outdoors girl, so loves hiking and the outdoors. So that's her passion is going for a hike on the mountains or getting away.
Yes.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So, it sounds wonderful.
Why, yes, it does.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. We have not yet asked you, how did you get into the sport of pickleball, Mark?
Yeah, so when I moved to America, my wife had a friend who loved pickleball, and he heard us a coach, so asked if I would come and join him to play. And I've been coaching for 30 years, racket sports in England, and but the name just put me off. I was really not interested in a game called pickleball. so I think like many people, the name put me off initially. And this friend asked me for 3 months, kept asking me to play, and I kept saying I'm busy or I can't play today. And eventually my wife said, Mark, you've got to go. He keeps asking. It's embarrassing. You got to go and play. So reluctantly I went and played, and to my shock, just fell in love with the game from day one. So the same story as many other players. It's addictive. It's incredibly fun. It's a complex game, so more than meets the eye. It looks like a simple game, easy to pick up but hard to master. And I think that the nuances of the game and how there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. So it looks like just hitting a ball over the net, but when you understand the strategy involved and the no volley zone, it brings a unique sort of, there's no other game with a safety area where you can put the ball and you're safe. Mm-hmm. So, it's just a really fascinating game. So I just fell in love with it from day one. I then played 4 hours a day after that day.
So
bravo!
So that's where all these fabulous tips come from.
Yeah.
See, so we wanted to ask you also, we know that you have an ebook when people go out to your website and sign up for the newsletter, but you also have some ebooks and some books coming out. Is that right?
Yeah, so we've written 5 ebooks, which are all coaching tips. There's 7 tips per book. And we're going to be releasing all 5 volumes in the next month. So we've been working with a publisher, and so I'm really excited to share my tips in a book form. And the idea is it's a small book. It's the sort of size. We call it A6 in England, but I'm not sure what you call it in America. But it's like
I think you're right.
It's just like a small small ebook, and the idea is to put it in your pickleball bag. And then in between games, if you put your paddle and you're waiting for rotations, you can look through a few tips, or you're struggling to play in the wind, you can look for tips on playing in the wind, or movement, or the mental game. So we've tried to keep the tips varied for all skill levels and covering as much variety in the game as possible. So
and that's going to be on your website, right?
Yeah. So we are. We'll launch it through Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be the first to hear, and then we'll probably have a link on the website as well to how to buy them.
Oh, I think that's great. And by the way, if our listeners are not following you on Instagram, they need to.
They do.
Yes, indeed. Your tips are just, again, extraordinary. They're very easy to digest and apply on the court, and it gives a lot of confidence, and it elevates the fun and the joy. And we really thank you for really helping the sport of pickleball for all of us.
Thank you so much.
Because not everybody has a coach.
No,
we don't.
And now they do right here on the screen.
Absolutely. And say, speaking of coaching and camps, when are your next camps, your upcoming camps?
Yeah, so we have one in Rabun County, which is in Tiger, Georgia. We've got one in Woodstock. They're actually all over. I struggle to know where I'm supposed to be.
Nice.
So people say, where are you next month? And I'll say, check on my website. It's on the website. So I think we're adding camps daily to the website. So I think there's probably There may be 12 or 15 on there now, and then throughout the year, and then we're adding daily to the website where we're going to be.
Oh, that is so great. We are excited to stay in touch with you. We are grateful for your time today, and I know our listeners, they have benefited big time from all of your tips, Mark. Thank you so very much.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mark, and have a wonderful afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you in Germany.
I'm going to Jamaica.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Mark.
And make sure everybody checks out all his stuff on Instagram.
Mark Price Pickleball.
And on his website.
Yes. Thank you so much.
MarkPricePickleball.com.
MarkPricePickleball.com. And on Instagram, your handle is Mark Price Pickleball.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Hey. Wow. Mark Price Pickleball.com.
You want to, I mean, I could watch for hours. I'm not joking.
I know.
Everything about it and the drone action that he has, I mean, it's just all super great.
His instructional tips on Instagram are so well produced.
Yeah.
They really are extraordinary. And again, it's content that you can consume. You can do something with it because you can digest it, you can understand it, and you can get on the court and apply it.
And he's just a nice man. Like everybody in pickleball, nice, family, inclusive.
Wow, we've met the neatest people. And speaking of nice and family, Mark also has his foundation. Let's face it, that's pretty cool.
Really cool.
And he's just a real great guy.
Yep.
So again, we do encourage you to follow him. You will not be let down. And I personally am excited for his ebooks.
I am too. And I think he's going to want one of these pickleball chick visors. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we want to feature something from our website every podcast. And people have asked so much about these. And we thought we should feature them.
I love them.
www.pickleballchicks with an X.
.com. Now, did you listen to the tip about the X strategy?
Yes.
Can you see why Pickleball Chicks and Mark Price are so well aligned?
Yes, we can.
That's so great. Thanks again for listening. And again, we are super excited to thank all of you.
Yes.
4,000 followers Instagram.
Woo!
Thank you.
Thanks for all the birthday wishes.
Oh, yes.
Bye.
Bring me the next.